Hi, this is Summer Lizer, your graduate embedded tutor, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit today about revision. I know this week we're beginning to revise the essays that we turned in last week, and so it seemed like a wonderful time to share with you my little tips for revision. And honestly, they're so simple and so straightforward. I feel silly even calling them a tip, but they're so helpful to me, and I really hope they're helpful to you as well. So, a problem that I have that you may have that's pretty common is you're writing an essay. You had a prompt from your professor, you read three essays, you chose two to write about. So, you had some ideas, you started thinking, you started brainstorming, you talked to your peers, you talked to your friends, you came to office hours, you started scribbling down notes, you did your annotations in Perusall or in marking something up in any way that you do that digitally or on paper. You had an outline. You started to write. You wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote and rewrote and moved things around and cut things out. You maybe got feedback from your peers. You brought it to office hours. You got comments from your professor. You got comments from me. You got comments from other students. You moved things around. You took things out. And suddenly you have this essay and you maybe kind of lost the thread a little bit. Or at least that happens to me a lot, and I think a lot of writers, you're head down in some idea that you have had for a while, and you've been messing with it and moving things around and taking them out and moving them back and forth and getting feedback from many different people, usually really good and helpful feedback, but sometimes feedback that's a little bit hard to kind of get your mind around. And you get to a point where you sort of forgot what you were ever talking about in the first place. And that's why I really want to emphasize this idea of what's the point? It might seem a little funny, but it's really, when you're getting to revise, it's a really nice time to step back and think, wait a minute, what was I talking about again? So I have three very quick steps I'm going to take you through now that I hope will help you as you approach revision to do what I call clarity and concision. Clarity is having a clear idea that you express yourself that people can understand. And concision is having an idea that you can say briefly to the point, that doesn't run on, and that conveys the message, just gets it out there. So the first thing is, I hope, the easiest thing, and that's the elevator pitch. You may have heard the phrase elevator pitch before. It's an expression. Imagine you're in an elevator with some important person and they say to you, hey, what is your essay about? And you have to quickly say something in the amount of time it takes to be in the elevator together. So you're not going to go on and on. You're going to say, it's about this or it's about that. One or two sentences. And so what I think works really well for me when I'm working on an essay, hopefully for you as well, before you do anything else, before you pick up your pen, before you start working, just out loud say, what is this essay about? And I think it's really helpful to do this out loud. If you really prefer to write, of course you can. But for me, I find that it's easier when I start to write, I start to try to make it fancy. Then you want to have the nice words and the proper grammar. And at this phase, honestly, just use casual language. It's not your essay, you're not writing it down. You're just saying, what's it about? I'm writing an essay about why I think that the original Halloween movie from 1978 is much better than the most recent Halloween movie that just came out this year. So I think Halloween 1978 is better than Halloween 2022. That's all I'm going to say. That's the elevator pitch. You can use casual language, as I said, just a sentence or two. What is this about again? And if you had an idea that you kind of lost the thread of a little bit along the way, this can be a really nice moment to be like, oh, yes, that's right. I was writing about Orwell and Walker's essays and how they both dealt with a certain issue, how they were the same, different, whatever. Just a sentence or two, very casual. You can say it out loud. You can jot it down if you do prefer to write it. But once you remember it, keep it. Write it on a Post-it note. Stick it on the wall, hold on to that idea. We're going to come back to this. This is what it's about. If I say to you, what's the point? This is the point. So once you have that idea, we're going to go on, we're going to complicate it just a little bit to get to the second phase. What do you have to prove? What's your argument? So if I came to you and I said, I think that Halloween 1978 is better than Halloween Ends, the movie that came out this year, well, why? What do I have to say? Let's say I'm going to say the writing is better, the directing is better, and the acting is better. So if I'm going to make this argument, what am I going to say? I'm going to begin with my thesis. Halloween 1978 is the better film. I'm going to explain why I think that. And here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to have 3 sections. First one's on writing. Second one is on directing. Third one's on acting. In each section, I'm going to compare the way that it was handled in the old movie to the way that it was handled in the new movie. I'm going to explain why I think the old one was better, point by point, for each section. Again, you're just saying it out loud. At this phase, you're not writing, you're not doing an outline, it's not formal. You can use casual language, you can use slang, whatever you want. You're just thinking through your own head, what's the point and how am I going to get to my point? And now we're going to get to the big, important, exciting trick, which, as I said, is not really a trick, but is a really helpful tool. The reverse outline. So what we're going to do, we're going to remember what's our point, what's our argument. And what I like to do is I like to print out my essay on paper if you have access to a printer. If you don't have access to a printer, or if you prefer to do things digitally, you can mark them up on a phone or tablet or digitally, whatever works for you. I'm old-fashioned, so I like to use paper. I'm going to print out my essay. I wish I had an essay from Halloween to show you. Unfortunately, I haven't written that essay yet, so I picked up an old paper of mine from college, but you get the idea. You're going to print it out, and for each paragraph, I'm just going to write a couple of words to the left or right in that margin. What is this for? What is this paragraph doing? It could say, it's introducing, it's introduction, it has the thesis in it. It's explaining why I think that Halloween 1978 has better acting. It's introducing the idea of a new director for the Halloween Ends movie. Whatever it might be. Just a couple of lines. You can see an example here. I wrote something about, define surrealism. It's hard to read my own writing, honestly. But that's okay. It's just for you. It can be messy. It can be just 1 or 2 words. But the point is that for every paragraph you write, what is it doing there? What's it for? And you have to be brutally honest with yourself, because the answer might be it's not really for anything. But we'll get to that in a minute. So once you have your reverse outline, or once you have your printed document, what you have in the margin is an outline, right? It's a reverse outline because you didn't start with an outline and then did an essay. You may have done that as well. But in this case, you started with an essay and you've created an outline. So now if you look at that margin, and if you want, you can even fold the paper or cut it or whatever makes it visually distinct for you. Look at that outline. Think about it. Does it make sense? There's 3 options. Well, there's 4 options. The first option is it's perfect. That's the best option. Then you leave it. But there's 3 possible problem options. The first one is it just doesn't fit. I've got a paragraph about Halloween 3, the third movie in the series, because I kind of got off on a tangent. I look at that reverse outline, I look at those notes in the margin, and I think, wait, what? Why is Halloween 3 in here? It's got to go. The second option, it's good. You want to keep it, but it doesn't really make sense where it is. I look at my outline and I see I've got a section on writing, a section on directing, and a section on acting, but this one paragraph which talks about directing is stuck up with the acting. Easy. Cut, paste, move. The third one is a little bit tricky. Honestly, this is the hardest one. It's easier to see mistakes than to see an absence. But when you look at that outline, you might realize that there's just something that's not there at all. If my point was that Halloween 1978 is a great film, and my argument was structured by comparing the two movies by writing, directing, and acting, and I realized that I never really talked about the directing in the 2022 movie. I just talked about how great the directing was in the original, and then I kind of jumped on to a different thing. Looking at that reverse outline makes it very clear, oh wait, I didn't get to that. There's missing there. And above all, the most important thing, you've got to just hold it in your mind, write it on a Post-it, tattoo it on your hand. What's your point? Because again, that's where it gets back to getting a little bit lost in our own writing, lost in our ideas. Your head's down, you're writing and writing and typing and typing. Things are kind of moving all over the place. You're incorporating the feedback of many different people. And this is a great opportunity as you're going through writing on the side of these paragraphs in this reverse margin to think, wait, what was I talking about again? What's the point I'm making? What's my argument? And once I have my point, am I building that argument? So as I said, it's a little bit silly. It barely qualifies as a trick, but I always find it works really, really well for me. Print something out, or if you prefer, do it digitally, mark up those margins. What is each paragraph doing? Is it accomplishing what it needs to accomplish? Does it need to move? Does it need to go? Does it need to add something else? And above all, if there's one thing to always, always remember, go back to that elevator pitch. You can tell yourself anytime you feel a little bit lost in the weeds of writing, wait a minute, what's your point? Hopefully that helps a little bit. I would be really happy to talk with you about it in person, in office hours, or if you email me, I can help mark that up with you. We can do it together or for chat or in other ways. Your professor would be happy to do it as well. And hopefully it'll be a tool you find really useful, not just in this class, but I've used it in classes my whole life, and I find it useful every time. So good luck revising.